Hi everyone, today we're going to do 5 Jacobean crewelwork designs in 5 simple stitches. My name is Sarah, welcome to my channel, Sarah Homfray Embroidery. We are looking at Jacobean crewelwork today, so just to show you quickly what that is, I've got a little piece here. This is not a really old piece, it's quite a new piece in relative terms, but this is what it looks like. And if you want to know more about this style of embroidery, I have a whole video on that. I'll put that up at the end and we talk about what it is, the history behind it, how to tell it apart from normal crewelwork embroidery, and I pull out lots of samples for my collection, so do go and check that one out when you finish watching this one. And if you want to have a go at stitching these designs, they're very easy. I've made them very simple with just the 5 stitches, and I've got a free PDF on this project with all of these designs and the stitches that I'm going to use, and some other information about how to transfer a design as well. You can get that for free from the free stuff page of our website. I'll put a link in the description below this video and you can go and download that and print it off and have a go at these designs. So if you're a Patreon or a YouTube channel member, we have just had a video go up for you about Jacobean crewelwork. There's a design I've designed just for you, and I've stitched it as well, and there's an accompanying video that goes with that, and I talk about how I chose the stitches and how I chose the colours and talk a little bit about the design, so do go and check that one out if you're interested in this technique. If you want to see what Patreon channel members is all about and check out that new design that's gone up, all of the information is in the description below this video. So this piece appeared in a video on how to look after your embroideries, because if you don't and you fold them up, this is what happens. They've got big holes in them. But I thought it was quite a nice piece to pull out and maybe use in this video. And I'm going to use these colours for my colours in my project. I'm going to take the colours from here. So this is not a really old piece. It's probably about 1970s. It looks a bit 1970s. But the colours are quite traditional. So I've pulled those colours. I'm just going to show you those. So I pulled these in my Burma Lana threads, so these are nice threads to use. They're half wool and half acrylic, so you get the nice strength of the acrylic but the lovely feel and the colours of the wool. So I pulled these colours here, not exactly the same, I kind of updated them a little bit so they're not quite so 1970s, because these are quite traditional colours, so I thought that would work for my colour palette. And I just want to show you this amazing book as well. So this is the Victoria and Albert Museum's Textile Collection Embroidery in Britain from 1200 to 1750. And I just thought I'd have a little look in there when I was planning this project and just see what the traditional colours were. And if I just pull these ones back, you can see a lot of natural colours. They would have used natural dyes in those days. And so lots of yellows and browns and greens. So you can see those, how they come into these projects again and again. And over here, here's some reds and those greens again, and the browns. Repeats quite a lot, quite a muted colour palette. But then I got to this rather amazing one here. This is a curtain, early 18th century. It's absolutely fabulous, this Tree of Life design here. And what they've got in this one is those colours, but if you look carefully, there's some little blue areas as well, just a little bit throughout. So I thought, so I can bring these colours, again they came off that piece that I've just shown you, so they won't be in those quantities, it won't be really bright because this is quite a strong colour, but just that little touch of the blue in there with those will just make it pop and just make it stand out a bit. So a really nice way just to get your colour palette, look at some traditional pieces and see what colours they used. So I'm going to get my frame set up, ready to stitch, and I'll just talk through my setup and then we'll jump straight into the first one. So I framed up my fabric with my design on in my stretcher bar frame, so it's really nice and tight. I've used a light box to trace them on from the PDF design. You can put them up against a window if you don't have a light box, or you could use a prick and pounce method if you want to. And I've got my stretcher bar frame held in my versatile table clamps. These clamp to my table. I've got 2 for the camera. You only really need 1 if you want to use one, but it's really good to have your hands free to work the stitches. So I'm going to show you 5 stitches. Those stitches are trellis stitch, back stitch and a woven version of the back stitch, chain stitch, buttonhole and a whipped wheel. If you're confident you know these stitches and you want to see me stitch them in design, jump to the chapter that starts at this time here. If you want to learn the stitches, stick with me because I'm going to show you those now. So I'm going to show you the 5 stitches that I'm going to use for all of these designs first. I'll show you how to work them quickly and then I will work the designs under the camera for you. So I'm going to use 1 strand of my Burma Lana thread. I have put in that PDF a little guide for different threads if you don't want to use these ones, you want to use something else, and what needle you need with what thread, and even if you want to do it in strand cottons, how many strands you need to use. So that's all on the PDF if you want to check that out. But I'm going to use this 1 strand. I'm going to start all my threads the same way, my little starting knot on the top. That means I don't have to keep turning it over. That will get cut off. That's a waist knot. 2 small stitches on a design line. Jacobean can have some open shapes, so if you put it right in the middle, you may not cover your little starting stitches, so just put them on a line. And then I'm just going to start with a trellis stitch. We have a video with different trellis stitches on. You can check that one out if you want some different ideas. I'm going to do a really basic one just to show you the principle of it. So I'm going to do some stitches right across the shape. I'm coming up the same side I went down. Try and get these parallel with each other and the same distance apart all the way across. That takes a bit of practice, so if you just bring your needle halfway up and lay it down, you can see if it's parallel or it needs moving before you bring the needle through. So I'm just going to move that one along a little bit, take a bit of time just to make sure this is right, because if it's a nice distance it looks a little bit better. And then I can't get another one in that way, so I'm just going to step it up there. Let's get rid of that knot that's in the way. I'll just do a little stitch to travel up to here. Just continue with that, come up the same side so you're not using quite so much thread. So when you filled it one way, we need to go and put a grid over the top the other way. So you can either do it square if you want to, or you can do diamond ones. They're quite nice. Let's put some diamonds in. I'm just going to go right across the other way and do exactly the same. Try and get the distance the same. And just keep filling in the shape. So I've got a tiny little one there. Just going to follow it as if that went all the way across. And I want to come down here, so I'm just going to step my thread down just with a little stitch to move it down. That's my grid laid, so I can take that thread out of the way, and then we just need to hold the grid down, because these stitches all move. So I'm going to do that in this bright blue colour. And if you remember me saying we don't use a lot of this because it's really strong, but a little bit here and there will just add really nice accents to this. So I'm going to use this to hold my trellis down. And we're going to put a little stitch where those 2 rows meet, so where they cross over each other, we're going to put a stitch over there. So you can either just do a single stitch like that, or if you want to do a little cross stitch and go the other way, you can. I'll put single stitches in first because that's okay. So you just need to come straight up, over and straight back down. If you do angles, you'll move your grid, so you don't want to move the grid. So straight up and straight back down over those joins, and just hold that trellis down. And there's lots of versions of this. I said you can put cross stitching, you can put 2 rows of trellis, another one on top. You can put something inside the little shapes, the diamonds and the squares. If you want to, you can put French knots. You can do all sorts of things with this trellis stitch, but this is the really basic version of how to put it down. I'll do some different things with the other one to show you. And just hold that down, and then we'll put an outline around it as well to make sure those edges are all covered and the design lines are covered. So the second stitch I want to show you is a back stitch and a woven back stitch. Nice simple stitch, this great for making straight lines and doing these little tendrils. So I've done a little forward stitch there from the point, then I come up ahead of myself and I'm going back into the end of the previous one, come up ahead of myself, stitch back, and the thread goes down at the end of the previous one. So we just make a row of the back stitch, and when you're going round a curve like these tight tendrils, you can just go a little bit closer together. Just to get round the curve, so just shorten your stitch a little bit to get around that nice tight curve. And then if you want to add a bit of interest to your back stitch, make it look a bit more decorative, you can weave in and out of it. So I'm going to come back up at the end, I'm going to go underneath one that way, don't pull it too tight, underneath the next stitch that way. So I'm not going through the fabric, just going underneath the stitch each time, back and forth all the way down the shape. This is where the frame comes in handy, because I can just push up underneath and get my needle under there like that. If you find the point is catching, you can turn the needle around and you can use the eye, or you could change to a tapestry needle if you want to. Right up to the last back stitch, and then to finish it off you can just take your thread through to the back, and that just makes a really nice decorative finish to your back stitch. So if you want a more substantial outline stitch, a chain stitch is a really good one to do. So I'm going to do that down the edge of this trellis. We need to cover up the edge there because it's open and it's got our starting stitches. So I'm going to go straight down the side of the trellis. So up and down in the same place, you come up inside the loop and then you tension it away from that point you started. Don't pull it too tight or you'll lose your little chains. Back down the same hole, create that loop up inside the loop, tension it away from where you started to create the chain. Just try and keep these nice and even. Up inside the loop. Don't pull them too tight, you'll lose the chains. And each one is attached to the next one, and then I'll show you how to finish that off. So when you get to the last chain, you just need to stitch down the other end of it just to hold that in place, down the other end to finish it off. And that's a row of chain stitch. If you want to use that stitch as a little decorative detail, you can do single ones. You can come up and down in the same position up inside your loop, exactly the same as before, but where we've just finished that on the end and we've gone over the end, we're going to do the same with that here. We just make these little detached ones. We can fill out shape in with some detached chains, and that's just nice for a little bit of extra detail. So let's do a blanket stitch or a buttonhole stitch. So I'm going to come along the bottom of this line here and do my little stems into this shape here. So I'm going to start right in that point, going down on the other side. We create a loop, we come up inside that loop, attention to the outside of the shape. I'm going to go down on the line. I'm going to leave a little bit of space now for blanket stitch. If you do it right close up to each other, it's a buttonhole stitch. Leave a little bit of a space. So stab down, come up inside that loop on that line, pull it away from the edge to tension it. I'm just going to turn it as I go around the shape. So these stitches should always sort of be 90 degrees to your line. They should turn with that curve of the design. So a little bit wider along the bottom to get it to turn around, up inside the loop, pull it away. I'm going to work all the way up that shape. So when you get to the end, you just need to hold it down like you do with your chain stitch. So I've just come up inside the loop there. I'm going to go down the other side on that line, and that will just catch that in place. And you've got a nice blanket stitch. Again, if you do it close together, it's a buttonhole stitch. And if I come back the other side and go with this line, I can go between these and I can make a more solid shape. So you can put these stitches together and have another effect again if you want. So the last stitch that I want to show you is a whipped wheel. You can do a woven one as well. We've done that in lots of previous videos, but they both start the same way. So I'm going to put the spokes in first. So I'm going to come up from the outside and down into the middle. And you'll notice on the PDF they've actually got the circle round them, but you don't need to mark the circle on. If you just mark the spokes on, the stitch will make the circle for you, and then you haven't got to worry about fitting it in the exact shape. So around there into the middle, and then I'm going to come up right in the middle, in that sort of gap in the corner of the V, right in the point of the V. I'm going to go around each one. So I'm going to go around that one, and then we go underneath that one there. Let's get rid of that knot. And we come back and around that, so you're going underneath two, comes back on itself, it goes underneath that one and underneath that one, back on itself, underneath that one, underneath want to be whipping it around each of the spokes. I'm going to start in the middle. We get them really nice and tight. You can pat these in and you'll see the pattern that starts to make. Don't go through the fabric, we're just going around the spokes now. And just keep going, and I fill the whole of that shape in, and we should get a nicer circle at the end. So keep going round as far as you can get, and you can see what it looks like, quite a nice little star sort of flower shape. And if you want to just round that off a bit, you can just put some little separate stitches in between the spokes there through the fabric. Just sort of finishes that shape off nicely. You can change colours as well if you want to have different colours in your wheel. I think those last few stitches just make it nice and round. Last one in there. And that's my whipped wheel. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank those of you who have clicked the super thanks button. It looks like this. We appreciated the video and you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for doing that. Your names are going to scroll across the bottom of the screen now. And I also want to thank my Patreons and my channel members for your continued support. It's much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed that new video that's gone up for you. So I'm going to carry on stitching. I'm going to use those same 5 stitches that I have demonstrated and the same set of colours for all of these designs. I'm going to mix them up a little bit and do some different variations of them. So I'm going to stitch that now. I hope you enjoy watching. So this is what the finished 5 Jacobean designs look like. I hope it's inspired you to have a go at this beautiful technique. It doesn't have to be complicated, just a few stitches and a few simple designs and you can make these lovely pieces too. If you want to know more about this lovely technique, don't forget that video I mentioned earlier all about Jacobean crewelwork embroidery is up here. And if you want some more trellis designs and some trellis patterns, we've got a playlist on those. You can check those out down here. Lots of different designs there for you to have a go at. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you've enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and I'll see you next time.